What is going on, guys? Welcome to Greggles TV. In this video, we're going to talk about my friend jumping from an iPhone. He had an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and he had the potential to jump over to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and instead decided to switch over to the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. And I wanted to bring him on video. He didn't want to, so instead he gave me a list of everything that he felt about the experience, from the good, the bad, the misses, the hits, everything. And I want to go through those things with you. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. His first experience switching from the iPhone world to the Android world, aka Samsung Galaxy, is, he said, it's an easy transition, easy activation. He used eSIM, so I know a lot of you hate eSIM, but since his iPhone was already using eSIM, he switched over with eSIM, so it made it a little bit easier and not too much of a hassle. He didn't have to get a SIM card or anything like that. He is able to, even though iCloud, so he uses iCloud on his iPhone and his iPad, he still has his iPad, so he's still able to access that data by going through Chrome to iCloud in order to access that data. There's no way to, at least from what he's done so far, there's no way to push and pull automatically that data, but if he needs anything, he can go right into that website, iCloud.com, and grab it. Next up, he was happy with the trade-in credit and finance options, being able to get really good trade-ins for devices versus, look at other manufacturers, have it be on the Google side with the Pixel, like their trade-ins are nothing compared to Samsung. Same thing with Apple, nothing compared. Samsung has really, really good trade-ins and great financing offers too. If you need to finance it, basically get 0% financing. He said fairly easy, although time consuming, to set up how he liked it or how he wanted his phone to be on the Samsung Galaxy side, but he was able to look through resources for guidance. So it was really easy to find that information online with YouTube and websites to set the phone up the way he, in his mind, thought and wanted. So, obviously you need a little bit of expertise when you're gonna customize it, and I helped him a little bit as well, but ultimately he was able to find the resources online pretty easily. He said one of the bad experiences so far was his wife, because she's an iPhone person, an Apple person, wife not liking to deal with outside of the iCloud and Apple bubble. I mean, that makes sense. That's one of the things you're gonna always come up with, is that when you have, and your friends have Apple devices, and then you switch to Android, you're gonna run into issues where people don't like the green bubbles. When they text you, they don't like that this or that doesn't work with you. Get over it. Switch over to something else, something that's more ubiquitous. That's why I love Android and Google products and overall, because they work on everything. I can use a note-taking app like Google Keep, and that works on Apple devices, it works on Android devices, it works on computers, it works on Macs, it works on everything. That's what I love. Whereas, with the Apple stuff, it generally only works with Apple, and it's only fully accessible through Apple. So it becomes a big pain in the butt if you ever want to leave that bubble. And they love that. Apple loves that you can't leave the bubble very easily. But if you do, you'll notice that it's a little bit easier to be free this way if you jump over to Android or Google, because that stuff works everywhere. Here are some things that he also likes about the new phone. Lots of possibilities for a custom look, from minimalist to complex, tailors to everyone. He's totally right. One of the great things is if you buy a Galaxy phone, you can leave it the way it is and, maybe change your home screens if you want. Otherwise, you can go crazy. You can add themes, you can change your launcher, you can change your icons, you can change your sounds, you can change your wallpapers, you can put live wallpaper. There's like a million things that you can do with a Samsung Galaxy phone or an Android phone, but mostly Samsung Galaxy phone with all that stuff. And it's amazing. So you can make it as complex or as minimalistic as you wish. Talking about the slim bar profile when closed, he likes that this slim screen is easy to operate with one hand. It fits a lot of content vertically, notes, text. He plays a Chrome Dino game. It's a dinosaur game on Chrome, the browser, and he's able to play that vertically, and it works great. He can see more of the screen, so he actually likes the long, tall, skinny display. Me, I'm not a fan, but he's seeming to like it a fair amount. Can multitask easily and looks good on the big screen. So back to the big screen, he's able to view a lot of content when he's multi-screen. He says he can watch his daughter's live stream game on video, take video of his son's game, and that all works as expected. So you can do multiple things on there, multi-screen, multitask. He loves that. And he's right, like being able to look at multiple things at the same time without having to flip back and forth or lose what you're doing. It's awesome, especially with the big screen of the Galaxy Z Fold 5. Dislikes about the new phone. He said it can get complicated, lots of settings. And again, he's not wrong on that, but it goes back to that old adage of you can make it as simple or as complex as you want with these phones. And that's the beauty of Android. You're in control. You can leave it the way the manufacturer had it, or if you want to take control of it, go ahead, you can. So I understand what he's saying there. But at the same time, I feel like Android personally is easier to use than iPhone now. You still have the buttons at the bottom where you can do back, home, recent apps. iPhone's all gestures, but at the same time, if you want to use gestures on the Android side or Galaxy side, you can do that as well. So it's more akin to the Apple side. One thing that he also doesn't like is the way icons, where he has the apps and then he also has his home screens, the app screen and your home screens. I understand that too, but I actually like that. I have the ability to and Apple has something similar now. That ability to go to all my apps when I want and search for something if I don't have it on my home screen, or customize my home screen. So but it is something that he's not totally fond of. He said it's hard to use copy text in the Google Messages app. So inside of the text messaging app, the Google Messages app, he had trouble figuring out how to copy and paste. He didn't realize that menu was at the very, very top to copy and paste. But the main thing, after I showed him that, he was fine with it. But ultimately, one thing he didn't like about it is that within the Google Messages app, you can't individually copy a word. Like say there's a big text from somebody, if you just wanted to copy a couple lines or a couple words or one word, you can't. It ends up copying the whole message. So it's weird. I don't know why they do it like that, but that's the way they do it. He also said that there's limited case options, and that makes sense because the Galaxy Z Fold 5 is not one of the highest selling phones of all time. So there's going to be less manufacturers of accessories, especially cases. So that totally makes sense. Hardware materials and screen quality is great, but still not as good as Apple. And that makes sense too. I mean, like you're getting a phone that has many parts. It's the 5th generation, and it's a new kind of technology for the most part. So I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, he did say it was a high quality phone, has good screen and all that, but it's just, he doesn't feel like it was in the same level as Apple. He said the price is obviously expensive. I mean, he's right, it's $1,800 at the very least. Once you add in trade-in, it drops dramatically, and his did as well, but it is still expensive to get into that, especially if you don't really have a good trade-in. Cannot easily sync with Apple Sphere, meaning AirTags, calendar, reminders. And I know we're in an Android world, but he's coming from an Apple world, and he has family members that use those devices and services, and it's hard to leave that ecosystem. So makes total sense. I told him to have everyone switch over to Google stuff, and that way they can still use it and he can use it. But it's a learning curve. They don't want to move. They don't want to do anything. I understand. But it is something to know that if you're leaving that Apple world and you have tons of Apple stuff, it's going to be hard to leave it. Things he misses, and this is again, things that has to do with his family and how he interacts with them. Shared calendar, AirDrop, iMessage. So those are some things that are misses. But I think that with those things, there are alternatives, but again, not with Apple directly. We do have our own AirDrop thing where you can send messages, files back and forth to each other on Android devices. We have calendars that we can share. All that stuff is working, but if you're stuck in the Apple ecosystem, it's going to cause an issue. He said workarounds, still maintains shared calendar, new events, but he uses his iPad. So he still has an Apple device, but he has to do all that stuff through his iPad. To go on with that though, he also says, these are some positive stuff that he also mentioned. He told me this after he had sent me it, but he says that his son loves to play Fortnite on his Fold 5, more so than his own Switch, because it runs better. So the quality, the graphics, the performance is better on the Fold 5 for Fortnite and versus playing it on the Switch. And that's Really cool. That's actually a really neat thing. As for things that, like, I asked him because he didn't put it in the notes, but as for things like battery life, he said, you know, he didn't notice any big difference, and that's really cool. And it's only going to get better from here because he's had the phone for about 2 weeks at this point, and his battery life is going to start to learn. It's going to get better. So that's amazing. And camera, he said he actually preferred the photos a little bit better on the Samsung side, but not dramatically. He loved that you could use the back camera and see the screen at the same time. He loved that option. So those are the things that he mentioned and that he loved and that he uses on a daily basis, and things that stood out for him. You know, when you mentioned performance and animations, he didn't complain about that. So that's how he feels, and that's the experience he went through. And I think that's a good thing to think about if you're thinking about coming from an iPhone over to the Samsung side, or over from an iPhone to a Fold 5 specifically, or a folding phone in general on the Samsung side. These are things to look forward to be concerned with, to know about. Let me know your experience if you switch from an iPhone over to a Samsung Galaxy phone. Have a great day, and we'll see you down the road. Peace.